Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be discussing Solana, and is it actually going to break out or break down? Well, let's dive into it together. But before we do that, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell, get notifications on all the latest news in cryptocurrency. All right, so Solana has been in everybody's ears lately, especially with different things going on, especially with when we're speaking about Cardano, when we're speaking about Ethereum, right? Solana somehow still manages to be brought up. Well, today, let's take a look into Solana. Solana's price, as we're sitting today, is $165, right? It's not that great, considering that it is today sitting at about minus 453. So not that great, but it is in a downward angle, and we're going to cover that right now. The thing with the Solana situation, so as you can see, we do have healthy trends, right? And we have a retracement and trend. One thing that I noticed, it is starting to looks like it's starting to change. Now, it can fall below lines of support, and that's not what we want. Not right now. I know I hear other YouTubers and I hear other people speaking, hey, it's a great time to buy. It's never a good time to buy on support, and that goes for anything in any market. You never buy in support. It's very, very dangerous because either it can reverse, or you can just completely lose your shirt and hat, right? Why I'm telling you that, like when we're using all the tools and different things that when you're really starting to invest, when you're looking at the moving averages, when you're looking at, like, for example, MACD, when you're looking at Fibonacci scales, all of this is really important, and because you don't want to make a blind move, right? So everybody's like really, really eager to make some money, right? But they're FOMOing really bad, and this is the big toxic thing right now in cryptocurrencies. Everybody's in FOMO. When we're looking at like the MACD, for example, if you know what the MACD is, if you see how it's working, right, especially with the volume, as you can see, right, the volume is really dropping. Typically, it's a good thing. In a way that's different. What you want in volume is you want high volume in a lower time frame. When you don't have that, it's very, very bad. Now, and there's a couple of things going on with this, and this is what we're going to cover, right? So, looking at the MACD, we have this big situation going on, right? So, when you see that the EMA, for example, is kind of crossing up, you can kind of see that it actually is telling you when it crosses, that's the direction of the price range. Now, it did cross right here on December the 2nd, and you can see it like it's like barely coming in right into the red. So it's telling us it's going down. Now, the same thing happens like when it crosses right here, and we're kind of in the green, it shows that it's going up, right? So you can kind of follow that action. Now, nothing is permanent. Like, of course, if we can just read this, then we know what to do, but it's not. So typically, right around this time, it gave us that warning following the MACD, and it's still giving us that warning too. So it's just really, really volatile at this moment for Solana. Now, of course, everybody wants it to hit like 200, right? They want to see $200, $300. This is what everybody's wanting. But the problem is that the volume is really, really going down with it. And that's not so bad either, because it could make a turnaround. But when we see that it is kind of slowly getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and that's what we're seeing, we are seeing that this downtrend is getting weak. And that's cool because we do need to see a breakout, and we want to see that breakout. However, the volume levels need to jump. When those volume levels will jump and they're higher and higher and higher, that is signaling for the breakout, right? So that's what we want. But right now, we're still in a very dangerous situation. But I would expect that Solana will continue to fall a little bit. And given that we're actually sitting in a wedge, this is a wedge. So if we're on the lower half of that wedge, and because we're in that lower half, two things. When typically you're going to fall through resistance, about the third candle or so, and I'm trading on the day, so this is what I'm doing. So about that third candle outside of resistance or support, like where we're looking, where we're really heading, it's going to signify a fall. If it comes above resistance, then it's going to be a breakout. So this is where we're kind of sitting, and you're probably really asking yourself, well, like, where is that really going to take us as far as price action? Well, typically with how wedges and triangles work, when we're looking at those, we're sitting at one thing here, right? So at the beginning of where we draw our wedges or our triangles based on support and resistance, this is going to kind of give you an idea. Now, of course, it's never perfect, but for example, if it falls about right here, if it comes out in about that third candle, and this is rules with this, by the way. So this is, you can set your own rules, right? Whatever, just don't have it where it changes. So don't change your rules. But if it falls out right here, we're looking at around, right, at $35 if it does actually start to collapse more. Around that. So you can say around 110, 100. This is where, and this is like, for example, if it breaks out and or not breaks out, but if it falls down, it's about 157 and it actually falls through support, which is actually not far. We're talking about $6 here, right? Another 10%, and we're like, it's gone. It can go down. Now, however, let's say if it jumps up and it comes to about what, $230, right? And in that moment, if we start to have that, now it can actually signify a jump for this, and this is what it's going to show you coming in. So it can jump up to 230 or so. Let me move this out of the way because it's just kind of in the way. So this is what we can actually really kind of come in. Yeah, so possibly around like 260, $270, and that is possible. But we do need to see volume really kind of flip the script here. So it is showing that it's getting weaker and weaker, especially when you're looking at this candles as they're kind of like losing power, losing strength. But we're not quite in volume yet seeing a turn of power. We're not seeing that they're really wanting to shift that power back to the buyers, and that's what we need to see first. We need to get back above the medium of this channel, of this wedge, before we actually can really be too positive. But as far as I'm seeing, it does signify it can go down a little bit further. Now, can it reverse? Of course, absolutely, absolutely. But before it does that, I think we are going to maybe actually exit out of the wedge and re-enter, and that's why we say those 3 candle rules, right? So you don't want to start, for example, like buying in this dip as soon as it falls through support from here, because just the moment that it falls through and it comes back down, right? The same thing if you did it, for example, if it came above resistance and you bought on that first candle, and it can actually re-enter and signify a complete reversal. And that's where you're going to lose. And that's where, if that signified that reversal, if you bought into like 250, right, 240, and you can drop down to 121 and really get hurt here. But that's what it's kind of showing at this point when we're looking at this wedge. So be careful on doing that. Now, of course, it can really shift at any time. But as I'm telling you now, so Solana is sitting in a very dangerous moment. So keep an eye on those. These next couple of candles in the next couple of days are going to be very important, especially because when we're talking about where these lines meet. So if you look at where it crossed before, November the 10th, and then we have this, the 2nd of November, December. That's a big time frame. So if we're speaking here, it's about almost 30 days, right? So about 28 days, 20 days. And so if we're sitting around here, it could potentially cross again. Right before the December, and hopefully it'll cross in the way that it'll be going up, right? So we need that volume here in the next couple of weeks of really some buyers kind of coming in for Solana, and in that way we can actually start to pull out of this bear market, which it looks like we're in. All right, let's go into the market just a little bit. The market today, Bitcoin is sitting about 0.51 minus and 172 for the weekly. Not that great. Not that great at all, and we'll go over that as well. We're going to cover, of course, the most popular. Ethereum is at 1.21% for the weekly and 1.27 for the day, or I'm sorry, vice versa, 1.21% for the 24-hour period and 1.27 for the weekly. Solana sitting in double digits for the weekly at 11.76 and 3.5% for the daily. Still not that great. Of course, ugly Cardano, which is still just dropping completely. 3% for the daily and 0.05 for the weekly. Still not great. But a coin that is doing good is XRP. It looks like it's starting to pick back up, right? So XRP sitting about 6.5 almost for the weekly and 0.5% in the plus for the daily. Now AVAX is doing pretty good weekly at 5.39% and about 0.67 for the daily. Another coin, Polygon, is doing great for the week, 8.31% and 5.95 in the red for the daily. Still not too bad. Litecoin is still kind of like hanging in there, right, at 4.56% for the weekly, and down by 1.44% for the 24-hour period. So some of these, and you're going to see some of these other coins like Near Protocol, which is actually doing really good, is at 39.92% for the weekly. So it's actually really killing it. Let's look at Bitcoin. We're kind of sitting in a triangle with Bitcoin. We're sitting there in a descending triangle a little bit, but I'm looking at the EMA for this, the 200-day and the 20-day. Now, when we had this, when the 20-day actually comes from above, from down, and actually crosses that 200-day mark, that's kind of sitting at a golden cross, what they call a golden cross, and it's a sign for a big jump, and that's what you're seeing here, that this big jump here. But what I'm seeing, and it's more scary, if it comes from above and it comes down, and it actually crosses that 200-day mark, it's actually called a death cross. So if it crosses just right here in this moment, right, as far as the 20-day, when it crosses in to that 200-day mark, if it comes from above, that death cross is signifying a drop. And that's what has us worried, especially considered when we're looking at somewhat of the descending triangle. It's already kind of telling us that this trend is going. Now, the volume is kind of going down, so that's a big plus. But it's going to show that it's pretty weak, right? It's still a weak descent. Now, of course, if it kind of breaks out, it can run from it. It can run, but it's up to here. Now, you can see we even got close here, so it's not like definite. But once it kind of gets like really close, it's going to make you nervous, right? But we're pretty close in this moment, and plus having that descending triangle looks pretty worrisome, right? So just watch out for that one. But it is showing that sign when we're looking at it in that way. Of course, if we're looking to, as well as how that trend's going, when we're going to, and let's go to that. When we go to the MACD for the same thing, let's take a look at that. So you need to use all of these strategies. Now the same here, we had that pump down, right? So right above, and it showed us that down triangle. Now it's going to cross again. And again, this is why it's like very worrisome, because it looks like right there again. So at the same time, when we have that 200-day moving average, if it crosses and we're still in that downward trend, it's going to signify that we're still going down. So it still looks like we're kind of entering a bear market. Still. So if you're still looking for Bitcoin to jump to 100K by mid-January, I don't think it's going to happen just yet. So sorry to break your heart, but that's what we have, right? When we're looking at Ethereum too, kind of the same situation. We're kind of actually moving what we call in that range, but it looks like it's actually losing strength too, and because more so Ethereum is not really in a descending triangle, but more of an ascending triangle. But the only thing I don't like is the volumes dropping. Now you can see that we had that potential, that cross, right, but it just wasn't long lived, and it crossed again, and it's still showing that downward way, and it's just giving you an idea, so don't like freak out completely. But we do need to kind of move and stay into the center point of this. Now potentially again the same pattern with the 3-candle rule. If it comes up above the resistance, we can see a big jump, and honestly a pretty hefty jump as well. So something along the lines of this. So for example, we can see probably some big jumps here, 5,000, and that's reasonable. So we can see about 5K potentially if we get there. But here in the next next month or so, I would say. So at the 20th, I mean, it can be around right at January if we can get above this line. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. subscribe, drop a comment, and I will see you next time. Drop a comment, let me know what you think. Tell me, how do you think the market's going to go? Are we going for the continuing this bear market, or are we going to actually start entering a bull run here soon? Let me know in the comments.